I thought I was the smartest person in the room. I thought 7 years of a perfect marriage had given me the right to a little dangerous fun on the side. But looking back at that tiny, neon yellow sticky note sitting next to my computer, I realize now that it wasn't just a password. It was the detonator that blew my entire world to pieces. My husband didn't just find out I was cheating. He orchestrated a masterpiece of revenge that didn't just end our marriage. It erased the life of the man I thought I loved. My life used to be the definition of the American dream. A house in the suburbs, 2 beautiful kids, 4 and 6 years old, and a husband who was, by all accounts, a saint. He was stable, kind, and provided everything. But stability feels a lot like a cage when you've forgotten who you are outside of being a mom or a wife. That's when Bob came back, an ex from high school, a what-if that I should have left in the past. For months, I lived a double life that would make a spy sweat. Every week, on the days I wasn't at my part-time job, I'd tell my husband I was taking the kids to my parents' house. It was a 90-minute drive. Long enough to be a valid excuse for being gone all day, but close enough to do 3 times a week. The kids loved it. They got to play with their grandparents, and I got to feel alive again. I'd drop them off, kiss their foreheads, and then drive straight to a dumpy motel 30 miles away to meet Bob. The adrenaline was a drug. I'd sit in that dimly lit room with Bob, laughing about our old lives, making fun of his fat wife who had let herself go after 3 kids. We felt invincible. We were the main characters, and everyone else, our spouses, our responsibilities, were just background noise. But my husband isn't a fool. He's a man of patterns. It started with small questions. "The kids said they spent a lot of time at your parents' this week, honey. Is everything okay with your mom?" I lied. I lied with a smile. I told him my mom needed help with the garden. I thought I was a good liar. I wasn't. I was just arrogant. Then, I noticed him looking at my car's odometer. I didn't think much of it until I realized I was putting an extra 400 miles a week on that car. I was burning through gas and excuses, and the silent tension in our house began to thicken like a storm cloud. One Tuesday morning, in my rush to get out of the house for another trip to my parents', I did the one thing you should never do when you have a secret. I left my guard down. I had written my AOL password on a sticky note and left it right there, on the desk, next to the keyboard. I thought, he never uses my computer. He's too busy. I was wrong. While I was in a motel room with Bob, my husband was sitting in our home office, reading every single email I had ever sent to my best friend. He read about the motels, he read the graphic details, but most importantly, he read how I mocked him and Bob's wife. He saw the woman he loved turn into a monster in black and white text. He didn't scream. He didn't call me. He didn't even move the sticky note. He simply printed every single page and stashed them away. For the next 2 weeks, life felt normal. Too normal. My husband was quieter, but he still kissed me goodbye. I didn't know that every time I left the driveway, I was being followed. He had hired Ron, a former cop turned private investigator. While I was reclaiming my youth with Bob, Ron was in the parking lot, taking high-resolution photos. He documented the check-ins, the lunch dates, the moments Bob and I thought we were hidden from the world. I remember one afternoon, Bob and I were laughing in his car. I felt a chill, like someone was watching us. I looked around, saw nothing, and went back to Bob's arms. If I had only known that my husband was receiving a play-by-play report of my betrayal in real time, I would have run, but I stayed. I always stayed. But the divorce papers weren't the end of the story. My husband didn't just want me gone. He wanted to ensure that Bob, the man who helped me destroy our family, learned exactly what happens when you steal from a man who has nothing left to lose. And what he did next, it was a level of cold-blooded calculation I never knew he was capable of. The explosion didn't happen at home. It happened at 2:15 p.m. on a Thursday, right in the middle of my open-plan office. A man in a cheap suit walked in, asked for my name, and handed me a thick envelope. "You've been served," he said, loud enough for my manager to hear. Inside were the divorce papers and a 50-page report from Ron, photos of me and Bob, dates, times. Even the receipts from the motels I thought I was so discreet about paying for in cash. I called my husband, screaming, crying, asking how he could do this to me. He picked up on the third ring. His voice was like ice. "I didn't do this to you, Sarah," he said. "You did this to us. And by the way, I'm not the only one who got a package today." That's when I realized my husband wasn't just leaving me. He was burning the entire forest down. While I was being served at work, Ron was meeting with Bob's wife. He showed her everything: the photos of Bob laughing with me, the emails where Bob called her fat and useless, and the evidence that Bob was using their joint savings to pay for our secret lunches. Bob's wife didn't just cry, she acted. Her father was the CEO of the company where Bob worked as a VP of sales. By 4 p.m. that same day, Bob was fired. By 6 p.m., his keycards were deactivated and his company car was towed. But it got worse. Bob and his wife lived in a house owned by her parents. When her father found out his son-in-law was cheating and mocking his daughter, he didn't just fire him, he evicted him. I tried to call Bob, but his phone was off. I later found out through court documents that he had rushed home to try and explain, to beg for forgiveness. He found his suitcases on the lawn and his brother-in-law waiting at the door. Bob, being the arrogant man he was, tried to push his way inside. His brother-in-law, a guy who spent 5 days a week at the MMA gym, didn't hesitate. One punch. That's all it took. Bob's nose was shattered, and he spent that night in a jail cell for trespassing and disorderly conduct. In less than 8 hours, Bob went from a high-earning VP with a beautiful family to a jobless, homeless man with a criminal record and a face that needed surgery. My divorce was ugly, but quick. My husband had so much evidence that my lawyer told me to just sign whatever he wanted. He got the house. He got primary custody. I got a studio apartment and the crushing weight of my own choices. The worst part wasn't the money or the house. It was my parents. When they found out I had used them as an alibi, that I had used my own children as pawns in my affair, they went silent. My father hasn't looked me in the eye since. I see my kids on weekends now. They're older, and they aren't stupid. They feel the tension. They see the way their father looks past me, as if I'm a ghost haunting a house he used to live in. As for Bob, he vanished. I heard he moved out of state to live in his sister's basement. His ex-wife took over her father's company. She's thriving, she's happy, and she deserves to be. I used to think that what they don't know won't hurt them, but secrets have a way of growing in the dark until they're too big to hide. I traded a lifetime of security, love, and respect for a few hours of excitement in a $60 motel room. Was it worth it? Every night, when I sit in my quiet apartment looking at the photos of my kids on my phone, I know the answer. If you're watching this and you think you're being smart or that your secret is safe, remember my story. Remember the sticky note. Loyalty isn't just a word, it's the only thing keeping your world from collapsing. What would you do if you were in my husband's shoes? Did he go too far? Or was this the justice Bob and I deserved? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading them, even the ones that hurt. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories.